Okay, so it looks like I should start sharing my screen in just a second. Hi, everybody. If I don't know you, I'm Amber Kerchner, and I have been really blessed to be in this position supporting early childhood education students for, I think it's been almost 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. I always feel like it's been just a couple, but it's pretty amazing. So I've had the opportunity to really get to learn this child development process. This year, I'm going to be altering my schedule a little bit after graduation so that I can help support you if you need some help reviewing your application. You do not have to apply through us. You can apply directly, but if you want someone else to review your application and make sure it's correct, if it's not correct, they send it back to you. And because you're applying so late in the school year, if it goes to the Child Development Training Consortium, they don't have time to send it back to you to get it corrected to then submit it. So you'd have to wait to apply until fall if you wanted to go under the Child Development Training Consortium. So it's really worth it to have a second person take a look. Or if you're at MPC and you want to, talk to maybe Mr. Jeff, if you're in class, you could do that as well. He could review it too. So all right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen so you can see our slides, and we are sharing this, so please don't feel like you have to take notes. There we go. Okay, so, once I do this, it's hard for me to see you. So if you do have a question, Beth from First Five is supporting us, and she's always been a big supporter, obviously, of what we do at MPC with our early childhood education department and at Hartnell. So if you have any questions, just type them in the chat, and Beth will flag me down because again, I can't see everybody. So thanks for coming. I know how hard you work often during the day and you're in classes, trying to fit it in. So I just want to thank you for your time. It means a lot to us that you're here. All right, so let's get going. All right, except there we go. I was trying to do something fancy and it wasn't working. There we go. So child development permits, I'm just going to do a very brief overview because we're going to go in more detail as we go through these slides. And so there is a renewal requirement. So all permits are valid for 5 years. And then there's a renewal requirement. So professional growth hours, for the very first level, that's the assistant. And again, we're going to go over what each of these means. I'm just giving you a real brief overview. Associate teacher, you need to have an additional 15 units of classes that will help you toward the next level of your permit. And then you've got your teacher permit, which requires professional growth hours, then master teacher, site supervisor, and program director. So professional growth hours, what you're doing right now, being in this workshop, those are some hours. Taking classes, so you can continue to take ECE classes at either college, and those would count for your professional growth hours. And you can several different things will count, workshops, etc. So let's look at what unit requirements are. So sometimes it gets a little confusing when you're thinking about units because you're looking at units for maybe a degree at MPC or Hartnell. And those are, you have to look at it differently. Units for your degree and units for your permit. A lot of times we can use the same class to meet both requirements, but just keep in mind that you need to be clear when you're asking a question. Is it for your permit or is it for your degree? So they do relate to each other, but there are separate requirements. So just want you to kind of keep that in mind. The unit requirements for your permit are done in semester units. So be careful if you are taking classes maybe online at another community college. My advice is to keep it simple for yourself and go to places that offer semester units, because when they offer quarter units, it complicates things. I have a student who has to retake one of the admin classes because she took it at a college that offered only quarter units, and it only ended up being 2 quarter units. State of California doesn't care. I mean, they care, but they have their rules, and it has to be 3 semester units. So just be mindful of quarter system versus semester. Both Hartnell and MPC are semester. Okay, they have to be from a regionally accredited institution. Once you get to your teacher permit level, there are general education requirements, general education classes that are required. 16 units, and your ECE or child development classes do not get to count as part of those units. That's separate. So when you're trying to calculate those units, you cannot double count them for general education for your permit. That's different than for your degree. For your degree, you can double count them. So that's one instance where it's important to talk to us. Okay, your courses have to have a C or higher, or credit, no credit, they have to be credit, or pass, no pass, they have to be pass. Okay, units that are completed outside of the US have to be evaluated by by a CTC, that's Commission on Teacher Credentialing, by one of their approved agencies. So if you do have a transcript from another country, that's wonderful. And I will send you a link to have an approved agency evaluate it, because that can help you to jump to a higher level of a permit. So please reach out to me or reach out to Sergio. Okay. All right, here is the child development permit matrix. So it's a fancy word for a grid. All right, so if someone says, have you ever heard of a child development permit matrix? You can say yes, it is this fancy grid. So let me just kind of, again, I'm going to give you an overview, and then we're going to be going more in depth for each level, but I want to show you how to read this. So if you do not have a degree, okay, if you have not yet earned an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, doesn't matter what your major is. If you have not earned an actual degree yet, you're always going to be over here in option 1. And that's where the majority of students fall. So the very first level, they call this an optional permit, and that's for having 6 units in ECE. Okay, and again, I'm going to briefly go over this, and we're going to go in detail as we go to each level of the permit. I want to show you how to read this. Next to it, it's talking about experience. So here, there's no experience required. All right, and then here's option 2. So if you happen to have gone through a HERO program or an ROP program, that might put you under an alternative qualification. Not many students, in fact, I haven't had one come this direction, but if that's been your background, you can certainly reach out. And let me just show you two more, and then we'll go into detail on each level. So the associate teacher is where most people start for their permit level. You can start with the 6 units for the assistant, and I do recommend you do that, because if you have a permit and someone else doesn't when you're applying for a position, it's just another way of saying that you have a higher qualification. So it can only help you to have that permit level. But the associate teacher requires 12 units in ECE. And remember, it says ECE/CD. The CD just stands for child development. We used to call it child development. Now we say early childhood education. So that's why you're always going to see that together. And it says including core courses. So if you pop down here, the core courses are listed here. It's child growth and development. Okay, it's child family community. And then the other class, they call it programs and curriculum, and then one additional class. So the programs and curriculum class, that could be principles and practices, or it could be our curriculum and programming class. So those are the 3 that you have to have, and then you have one additional. So it's four classes, which translates to 12 units. And then you need some experience. So what they're asking for is 50 days of experience, and it needs to be for 3 or more hours at a time. So if you're going to volunteer or in your work schedule, be sure that you're there for 3 hours at a time in order for you to count that as one of the days. And then you can go back 2 years. So I can backtrack for 2 years to count any experience that I've had, paid or volunteer. And you can have it from 3 different places, 4 different places, however many different places, you can add those together to total your experience. And again, this is another option too. I've never had anyone come in this direction, but if they have a child development associate credential, again, I haven't seen that. So if that's your background, you're welcome to reach out. So I'm going to jump up one more, because I think this is where some of our students are going to fall. So yay. I know many students are getting to the point where they're going to be graduating, which is exciting. But if you're on the option 1 side for a teacher permit, it's 24 units in ECE, including the core courses. It keeps building, right? So you have those core courses and you need a total of 24 units. Plus you have to have 16 general education units. And just a reminder, we can't count your ECE classes for those general education classes. Even though I can do that for the actual degree, I can't do it for the permit. Then your experience is 175 days. So you've jumped from 50 for associate teacher to 175 days. Has to be for 3 hours or more, just like before, can be paid or volunteered. And then we can go back 4 years to count that experience. And again, it could be from 10 different places, however many, and I'll show you how to keep track of those hours that you have. But now I'm going to jump over to option 2. So this is where I want you to start paying attention to the alternative requirements under option 2. So it tells you here, if you have an AA or higher, so at MPC, it's an AS, right? An Associate of Science, basically the same thing. An AA and an AS are basically the same thing. If you have your degree in ECE or a related field, it really needs to be ECE at MPC or Hartnell. We don't have anything else that's considered related. With 3 units of supervised field experience. Okay, so that is our practicum class. And you have to have at least 3 units. So our practicum class I think at both colleges is 4 units. But if you have your degree and you have your practicum class, which you have, if you have your degree in ECE at either college, you have completed that or you're in process of completing that practicum class. That means you can jump to option 2. And what you're going to notice is that there is no experience requirement there. So by getting your degree, you have skipped this requirement to have 175 days of experience. Okay, so that's the benefit of having your associate's degree in ECE. And then just very quickly, and then I'll move past it when we get to the detailed level. If you have a bachelor's degree in any subject, does not have to be ECE. Bachelor's degree in any subject, you can jump all the way down to master teacher or site supervisor without any experience. You just have to have your 12 units in ECE, 3 units in a supervised field experience in ECE setting. So you get to jump all the way to master teacher or site supervisor without the 350-day requirement. All right. Okay, let me move on to the next slide. Actually, I'm going to stop and take just a breather and see if there's any questions or anything coming up in the chat. We are going to go through each permit individually. I just wanted to show you how to read this permit, this matrix. And actually, let me just pop over here and remind you of the renewal requirement. So this just tells you if you want to renew the first level, in 5 years, you need to do 105 hours of professional growth. The associate teacher, you get to renew it 1 time. But then the next time you have to have taken 15 units to help you to get to the teacher level. And then the rest of the levels require 105 hours of professional growth activities in order to renew. Okay.
And Amber, it looks like we have a hand raised.
Yes, perfect. I will take a breather.
I have a question.
Yes.
I already applied for my teacher permit a couple of months ago.
Yes.
So I'm just waiting for the reply. But the lady over there, she told me I need to consult some professional growth advisor.
Yes.
So how can I find that person?
So we will get to that. It's going to be at the end of the presentation. There's a slide for that and a link to where you can go to find that person. And asking, professor, either the, well, we'll get there. I promise it'll be at the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And please hold me to that, but it is one of the slides.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Amber, if I could just take one quick second, we had a few people join late, and
okay.
Lori, if you can translate for me, if anybody would like to go to the Spanish breakout room, if you could please unmute yourself and let us know what your name is and we can assign you to the Spanish room.
Buenas noches, gracias por acompañarnos. Si alguien prefiere estar en el cuarto de español, pongan su nombre en el chat y díganme español y los puedo mandar al cuarto de español. Toda la información es igual, solo va a estar en español.
Okay, and then Sandra, did you have a question? I see your hands up, or is that?
I do.
You asked it.
I'm trying to get my master teaching permit. Finish my I have my teaching permit, I finished it on Hartnell, but for the master teaching, I'm taking classes in Miracosta online.
Yes.
So my
Sandra, you cut out after the first. I heard Miracosta and then I didn't hear anything else. Did anyone else? Did
Yeah,
that
we
happen to
can't hear
everybody?
you. Sandra, we can't hear you.
minor on special needs. So, and this is what I'm confused at.
So the middle half of your question cut out for that, but we're going to get to master teacher in just a moment. Could I ask you when we get to that, when we focus on the master teacher part, could you ask me that question again and then we can walk through it together?
Sure. Thank
Does
you.
that work? Okay, absolutely. And there will be time at the end of the presentation too for detailed questions. And then also I am always happy, Sergio or I are always happy to set an appointment to talk with you guys in detail. Okay. All right, so this is a nice worksheet that you can use to keep track of where you are for your child development permit. It's part of the link that that Megan is sending out and that we'll have available as well to the packet from the Child Development Training Consortium. So this is something, again, you can keep track of. So just for example, these are those core courses. So CGD stands for Child Growth and Development. So if you took the class, you pop in 3 units here. Child, family, community, you'd pop in 3 units there. Curriculum, that would be the curriculum or programs class or principles and practices, and you'd keep those units totaled there so you know where you stand. General education, and we're going to get to what those count for in just a moment. There's one additional sheet, but this is where you want to count your general education classes. So there's 4 categories here. Most of our classes are 3 units. So if you do the math, that's 12, correct? So I get a lot of students who think they've completed this requirement because they've done a class in each category, but you need to have 16 units. So just keep that in mind. It has to be a total of 16 and it's required to have 1 in each category. And we're going to go through the categories in just a moment. Your work experience, you can keep track of how many hours. If you have a degree, your supervised field experience work, you could put your course here. Your areas of specialization or supervision and administration. So I think that's maybe one of our questions was about the specialization units. So that's where you keep track of it down here. Your adult supervision units, they're usually 2-unit classes. You'd keep track down here. And then it shows you on this side. So this is that permit matrix in a list form. So here's option 1, which again, most of us are doing option 1 for these first 2 levels. And then the possibility of option 2 here once a student earns an associate's degree. If they don't have an associate's degree and they have a bachelor's degree, you're really looking at jumping into master teacher site supervisor once there are 12 semester units in ECE and that supervised field experience class. So this is a worksheet. And again, it's available in the packet that we're going to provide the link to that you guys can, keep track on your own as you're taking classes. Okay, here's the general education worksheet. So mentally draw a line between science and math. Okay, so that means you can take a class in either category and it will meet the science and math requirement. And I'm going to emphasize this again. This is permit only. If you're talking about your associate's degree, you're going to need both, right? But for your permit only, a science class or a math class will meet the science and math requirement. And these classes need to be college level. So, depending on, so English 1A would be a college level English class that you could count in the English category. Political science would count in the social science. US history would count over here. It shows you here that some classes like speech, literature, and theater can be used for humanities or an English class, but you can't double count it. So if you're going to count speech in your English category, you can't count it in your humanities category. So this is a total of where you need to get to 16 units, and you have to do each of the 4 categories. And remember, you should, I don't know why they don't change the grid here, but 1 class will meet the requirement for both science and math. All right, any questions about general education classes for your permit? Okay, it's so hard not seeing your faces in a classroom, but I'm still glad you're here. So these are the core classes. We've already reviewed this, but it's just showing you again what those 3 classes are. And we have a sheet that's going to tell you what the class number is, what the course number is, because our numbers are different at MPC than Hartnell, than Cabrillo, but we have a sheet that tells you, and we all try to use the same titles. So here it is. So, you know, for example, Hartnell, if you're taking, oh, you know what, this needs to be updated because they have a new course title for that. But let's just go to Child Family Community at Hartnell. ECED2 is the name of it, okay, or ECE2. But that same class at MPC is ECED 55. So don't go by the course number if you're taking classes at different colleges. Okay, make sure that, because you might say ECED2, and you know that's observation and assessment at MPC, and it could be something else at a different community college. So ask specifically about the class. Okay, and again, Megan's going to share the forms list. So we talked about those 4 areas that you need for your general education. 16 units, ECE classes don't count. And then your experience, we already talked about this as well. It does need to be a licensed family childcare if you're counting your experience from there. And if you are student teaching in kindergarten, 5 and under, you can count those hours, but it has to be 5 and under. The children have to be 5 and under. So we'll go through each individual permit very briefly, so we'll have some more time for the actual application. So 6 units in ECE for your assistant permit. Doesn't have to be any particular 2 classes. Any ECE classes will count just for a total of 6. And you can renew this permit after 5 years, as long as you've done 105 hours of professional growth. The associate teacher. So this is again where most people start, 12 ECE units, and you have to have those 3 core areas that we talked about, 50 days of experience within the last 2 years. To renew, you can renew it in 5 years, but you can only renew it once. Then after that, you do need to complete an additional 15 units toward the next level of your permit. They don't count remedial units, so that would be, you know, like a support math class or a support English class. And they also don't provide any extensions. The teacher permit is 24 hours in ECE, including those core units, 16 general education units, and 175 days of experience. If you have an associate's degree in ECE, then you go all the way to option 2 with no experience. To renew, it's 105 professional growth hours. Master teacher, this is where we're going to get into, I think, hopefully, and answer that. Someone had that question for us. Master teacher requires 24 units in ECE. You have to have those core units, 6 specialization units. So that's one area of focus study. So that could be 2 classes in infant toddler, 2 classes in special needs, any 2 curriculum classes. Those would count for your specialization, but they do have to be 6 units in a similar topic. And then you also need to have 2 adult supervision units. There's an adult supervision class, 16 general education units, those same 4 categories we talked about, and 350 days of experience. If you have your bachelor's degree, doesn't have to be in ECE, it could be in anything, then you would just need 12 units in ECE. They don't have to be core units. They probably will be, but they don't have to be. And then that 3 units of supervised field experience. So let's get back to that question since we're on the master teacher screen. So was it Sonia? I'm so sorry, I didn't write down. I should have been taking notes on your name. Could you repeat your question for us about your master teacher permit?
It was me, Sandra.
Oh, Sandra, I'm so sorry, Sandra.
Okay.
Thank
No,
you.
fine. I just didn't want to interrupt anybody else.
No, you're good.
I'm going to be in option 1.
Okay.
So I'm going to get my master teaching. I'm taking the 2 adult supervision plus
Okay.
the 2 the 2 classes, 6 units on special needs.
Yes.
But I do have the 360 days of experience, but my concern is the 105 hours too where you have
Oh,
to
that's only if you're renewing it. So if you're applying for the first time, you do not have to have the 105 hours unless you want to renew it. So if you're applying for the first time, you're not required to have that going in.
but eventually you will have to add up these hours, right? In the
Yes, and so you want to find a professional growth advisor, is that?
Yes, and when it comes to the 105 hours, it could be anything, or it's you that you can just take one class per semester, or how does that work?
Sure, sure. And part of what I want you to do, rather than just kind of, asking, taking one thing here and one thing there, that's where working with your professional growth advisor to create a plan of, I want to take this class this semester, I want to take this class that semester, I want to go to this workshop, and then maybe there's a little bit of room in the middle where if something new comes up, you can fill in with it. But I think it's not something you want to just kind of piecemeal together. I think you really want to have a plan, and you can't start counting those hours until after you've obtained the permit. So if you are going to apply for your permit after the degree, after you get your degree, let's say this May, until you actually receive that permit, you can't count anything that you've done before then toward those professional growth hours for the renewal. Okay, I
Thank
hope
you
that
very much.
answers your question. Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right, perfect. So let's,
Can I have a question, please?
yes,
Okay. So basically, once we apply for the permit, right now I haven't got my permit yet, but I already applied and I have that green paper.
Yep.
So do you think these classes I'm taking, it's count as a professional growth hours, or no, I need to receive my permit? And then
that's a really good question, because it means you've applied, you haven't received. My understanding is
but I
it's
got the green
receiving it, because you're going to get a date on your actual permit and it needs to be after that date. But your class, hopefully you'll get it before the end of the semester, because then your transcript will show, the completion date. So that's a really good question. Can you email me that? Because I would love to send that to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing just to see if how they would answer it. And that way we have it in writing and can share that.
Okay, thank you. And one
Sure.
more question.
Yes.
I had my bachelor degree from different country.
Yes.
I'm Indian. So when I started at Hartnell ECE classes, they gave me almost like 90 units credits for that. And do you think I can use the same credit for MPC if I want to apply any classes, or I do need to go again for to get the credits?
So just remember, regardless of how MPC interprets it or how Hartnell does, you have to send the evaluation to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing and they evaluate.
Yeah, I did
So
it. I did it that before.
Yes.
When I wanted to go on a Hartnell, they told me to evaluate your degree from there. So I
Perfect.
did it that, and I got some credits from there. So
Perfect.
does MPC gets the same thing, or I don't?
Yeah, we should be following the same. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, please email it to me and I can tell you in depth. Yes, and just remember too, if there's a job application that requires a bachelor's degree, like a Head Start position, you would qualify.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
You're welcome. And I think Ishika, you had your hand up too. Hi. Oh, I think you're on mute. Go ahead. There you go.
Okay, let me unmute myself. Hi, Miss Amber. I have been talking to you a couple of times in email. Thank you
Yes.
for helping me.
You're welcome.
And I still not really clear about the option 2. I'm looking at master teacher.
Yes.
And I'm taking like 12 unit in MPC, and then
Yes.
I'm sure I will get that. But do I have to have this 3 unit supervised field additionally, or I can go?
Yes, additionally. So
I
the
have to
reason
have
why
it.
you don't have it at the same time is many of these units in the 12 are fulfilling the prerequisites, because usually the supervised field experience class is the last one you take. So that's why you're in classes right now that will fulfill those prerequisite requirements. And then you can take the 3 units in supervised field experience. Yes, that is a requirement.
Okay, so I have to wait after that 3 units,
Correct.
then I will apply.
You
Okay.
got it.
Thank you. And then one more question. Sorry,
Yes.
I have same situation from last person who has spoken.
Yes.
I do have degree from different country too. Then I have trouble using that or like translate that to MPC. Is that count as like bachelor degree as well?
I'd have to look at it. So I would need to email you there are recommended evaluation services. So I'll tell you, they normally have two options for the evaluation. One's less expensive and it's just general, and one's more expensive and it's detailed. Unfortunately, you want the more expensive detailed one.
I already have done that too. I'm sorry.
Good.
Yeah,
no, that's okay.
It be on my record, but it's like doesn't go anywhere. I talked to this MPC
The
office,
admissions office.
Yes, they're not really clear about that too.
And you know what, email me and I can look and see if it's been entered in Laserfish to see. And we don't necessarily, it doesn't go on your actual transcript. We just use it as meeting prerequisites. So then you have your transcript from your other college, plus you have MPC together. But when you apply for your permit, you'll send that evaluation along with it as part of your justification of why you're applying under option 2.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
But email me and I'll follow up for you.
Thank you
The
so
admissions offices, as you can imagine, you guys at both colleges are handling, 3 or 4 times what they normally do. So everything's just a tad bit slower. So we all appreciate everybody's patience, but if there's ever anything you're not sure, reach out to me at MPC or Sergio at Hartnell, and we're happy to see if we can get an answer for you. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let's look at, here's the Master Teacher Specialization form. This was quite hard to find, I remember. So when you're applying for that Master Teacher level, again, not if you're doing it under option 2, but under option 1, you do need to provide the course number and the course titles and the units to show that you are completing 6 units in a particular area. So curriculum could be one. You might do language and literacy and science and math, or different combinations, but it gives you examples down here below. It's not limited to that. And then you sort of pick the title. Curriculum would be one, or maybe special needs, family relationships, something like that. So you can always reach out to me or reach out to Sergio as well. And here's the site supervisor. So for option 2, it's the exact same. So I never quite understood that. So if you have your bachelor's degree and you've met those requirements, why not apply for the highest permit? That's my suggestion. But under option 1, it's your associate's degree. And then you need to have 24 units in ECE, including the core units, 6 administration units, 2 adult supervision units, 16 general education units, and 350 days of experience, including 100 days of supervising. So this is for the site supervisor permit. So this is the second to the highest level. And of course, to renew in 5 years, you need to have completed 105 professional growth hours. All right, and here we are at the program director. So even if you have a bachelor's degree, you go right back over to option 1. So that's where on that permit matrix, make sure when you get toward the bottom, we have to slide back over. So you do have to have a bachelor's degree or higher, does not have to be an ECE. You need to have 24 ECE units, including core units, 6 admin units, 2 adult supervision, and 1 year of site supervisor experience. For option 2, if you have your administrative credential, then you skip much of those requirements, but then you have to have the 12 ECE units and the 3 supervised field experience units in ECE. And again, 5 years renewal, 105 professional growth hours. All right. So here we go. I know someone asked this question. So this is how to get some assistance for finding a professional growth advisor. Here's the website that you can go to that will list who is signed up right now as a professional growth advisor. Or here's the phone number for the Child Development Training Consortium, and they can help you. If you're taking classes at a community college, oftentimes the director of the Child Development Center might do it for you. They may be someone who provides that service. They often do. Or maybe one of the master teachers at the lab school or the child development center. They either do it or could refer you to someone. So I know someone had that question. And I do see a hand raised.
Yes, I have a question. Same thing
Yes.
about this growth. I was just looking your chart right now. The teacher, the master teacher permit and the site supervisor permit. So basically, I got my AA degree last year.
Mhm.
So and but right now I'm applying for teacher permit. So
Yes.
from teacher permit to directly, can I jump to site supervisor if I have a 6 administration and 2 adult supervision? Or do
So
I?
I'm going to go right back here
Hmm.
to site supervisor.
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, I
So
had a AA degree, 24 ECE units. I had one administration, like a 3 units, and then I
mhm,
did one adult one.
got
So
it.
that's why I'm asking. That's why question for.
So here is your, what I would concentrate on. It's 350 days of experience, including 100 days of supervising.
Yes,
So
I'm.
you have to have a record of 100 days of supervising, and then you would qualify. And yes, you can, as long as you qualify for another permit level, you do not have to go in order.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
can jump directly to that. Do that. Okay, thank you
Yes.
so much.
You're welcome. Good question. Any other hands up? Trying to see if I see anyone. Okay. Here's the permit funding. So Megan talked about this at the beginning, but everyone qualifies right now. So let's use this. So if you live or work in California, you qualify. You don't have to be working. So we used to think you had to be employed in a childcare setting, and you do not. The funding levels are typically first time or upgrade for assistant, associate teacher, and teacher. That's typically what the funding will cover. Right now, they have funds to cover every single level of the permit. So regardless of what level you are applying for or possibly renewing, you can apply through the Child Development Training Consortium, and they will reimburse you for your live scan, and they will pay your $100 fee to the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. So the applications are due by June 30th. So keep in mind, once school gets out, if you have to wait for your classes or your degree to post to your transcript, then you want to be sure you get that application in, and they will fund these until they run out of money. If you miss this cycle, we have to wait until August. Sometimes it gets released in August, sometimes September. I've had it as late as October. So we're going to go through that application. How are we doing on time, Beth and Megan? Are we okay?
Yep, we have a whole hour.
Okay. All right. So this is a very busy program checklist, right? But I love it because it's very specific. So if you go through this, it will really help you to complete the application and not have it be sent back. So I'm going to go through each, and then we'll go through the rest of the application as well. So, and I literally ask you to go old school and print the first page and put check marks as you do these things so that you really have everything together. So it says to you, complete all the required forms, okay? And then it's reminding you, because so many people have made this mistake, it says number 8 is not United States. Please put the county, not the country. So if we're in Monterey, we're going to put Monterey for the city, and we're going to put Monterey for the county, right? So for number 8, just be real specific on that one. And then here's the application. We're going to look at it in just a moment, but it's going to tell you to complete all fields. So you can't leave anything blank. So all 5 pages, and page 2 is required even if you don't mark anything on it. So you want to be sure you have a full application. So it does ask you for your social security number and your date of birth. And then you need to mark, is it a new credential or a permit, or is it renewing? Then they want you to do the drop-down menu for what level are you applying for. So we talked about that. Maybe it's associate teacher, maybe it's master teacher. And then it says authorization subject. Leave this section blank. Okay. permit renewal self-verification, leave it blank if you're not renewing. Okay. Professional fitness questions, you have to answer all of them, A through F. If you happen to answer yes to any of them, you have to complete the professional fitness explanation form, which is part of the packet, and submit any required documentation. And if that applies to you, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to walk you through it. Okay. Number 7, the child abuse and neglected mandated reporting. You want to read that statement, and then you need to check the box, I agree. So that's another common one. If it's not checked, they send it back. Okay. Employing agency information. Even if you're working for someone, do not put the employing agency information in there. Leave that section blank. And then here is that section number 9, where they're asking you again to be sure you put the date, the city and the county, not the country, the state, and your signature is required. I was told they really like this to be dated very close to when you send it in. So if you happen to have printed out an application, I don't know, last year, and signed it, go ahead and print out a new one. Okay, they want it to be dated very close to, you know, a week or two from when you're submitting it. All right, the CTC, which is the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, does not accept it if it has any handwritten corrections or crossouts or whiteouts or any other errors. So if you've made a mistake, you can't cross it out an initial, you can't white out an initial, you just want to retype it and print it. And that's what I encourage you to do, is complete it online and then print it. Then, you know, it looks good and it's easy to read and there aren't any errors. If there's any sort of crossouts or anything, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing will send it back, which means the Child Development Training Consortium won't even accept it, because they know that they'll send it back. So they won't pay for it and they won't reimburse you for your live scan. So just be sure there's no corrections or whiteouts. So the live scan part, I want to stop for just a moment. Even if you've done live scan or fingerprinting for a job that you have, even if it's for a school district, you have to do it for the state of California. So the only people who get around this is if they've done it in the last year and they've done it for an emergency teaching credential at an elementary school or a high school. Otherwise, you have to, again, I'm sorry, do your live scan and your fingerprints. So there is a form that's in there that you take to a live scan location, and they do that for you there. So I'm going to show you one more thing when we get there. Okay, then there's the live scan reimbursement form in your packet. So you want to be reimbursed for that. Costs about $90. I know it's a lot, but they will reimburse you for that cost. Then you need to have your official transcripts. So couple of options. So this is new this year. They will accept e-transcripts, but they have to be emailed directly to the commission, to the Child Development Training Consortium or the local county office of education. So we'll provide that information for you later in this slide, so you'll know exactly if you're sending an electronic transcript. So if you have official transcripts already, even if they've been opened before, you can use them for your child development permit application, as long as they are originals. They can't be photocopies, but they can be opened. If you were going to bring an official transcript to MPC, if it's opened, it's not official anymore. But for the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, it can be opened. It just has to be the official on the nice paper, you know, with the watermark and all of that in order for it to count. All right. There's a confidential profile that you need to complete, verification of experience if you're applying for a level that requires it, and the master teacher specialization form if you're applying for master teacher. They always encourage you to make a copy of everything before you send it. So here is that e-transcript form. So if you choose to send your transcripts electronically, which is the fastest and easiest, especially if you're requesting more than one, this is the form that you're going to fill out. All right, so the transcript agency, it depends on who's providing the transcript. So if you go to the MPC website and you click order transcripts, the information, it will tell you exactly what that name should be, what the order number is when you've submitted it, and what college it is that you're ordering it from. Your name, email, etc. And here it shows you. So if you order an electronic transcript and you send it to me, or you send it to yourself, Unfortunately, it won't count as an official transcript. It has to go directly to the Commission on the Child Development Training Consortium. Okay. All right. So, and unfortunately, they don't reimburse the cost of that. So you have your choice, official transcripts or electronic transcripts submitted that specific way. So here is the actual application, and it's shockingly simple. This is the actual application for your permit. So all the highlighted areas are what needs to be filled out. And when you pull this up on your computer, you should be able to fill it in right on the screen, and then you can print it. If you're finding that it's not letting you type, I find it's better to download the form and then go to your downloads folder and open the form. Then it should open up and be, should be able to type right in it if it doesn't work from the initial time. So your social security number is here, date of birth, your full name. Okay, and it's your full legal name. So be sure you're using your full legal name. Then it says address. Okay, oh, if you have a maiden name or a former name, that's also to fill in here. And then county or district of employment, I would not fill that in. It's not highlighted. Your address, city, state, and zip, and your email address. Those are all required. Application type request, only one. So most people are doing the new credential or permit, possibly a renewal, possibly an upgrade. So if you right now qualify for an associate teacher permit and you apply through the Child Development Training Consortium, and then maybe you do another class in the summer or fall, and then all of a sudden you're ready for the teacher level or the next level, whatever that might be, you can upgrade your permit and you only pay half the fee. So then it's $50. Or once every year you can apply through the Child Development Training Consortium to have them pay for it. So you can always upgrade. All right, down here, you're going to choose one document. So you're going to go to the far right and you're going to select what level that you're applying for your child development permit. Remember, in the instructions, a very detailed long list, wordy list, it said skip number 4. So you're going to skip that authorization subject area. So again, look how simple this is. The next page, it says, have you completed your child development permit renewal self-verification? Well, if you're applying for the first time, you don't fill this out. It's only if you are renewing, and that requires professional growth hours. Otherwise, leave it blank. Okay. And this says they're going to ask you these questions. If you answered yes to any of them, then you have to fill out the professional fitness explanation form. And so that's for something that might come up on a background check. Okay, so read that very carefully. So here are the questions. You answer yes or no. So if you answer yes, you have to do that professional fitness detail. So the first one asks if you've been dismissed, etc. This next asks if you've had any convictions or misdemeanors. C asks if you're the subject of any inquiry or investigation. D, any criminal charges pending against you. Or E, have you ever had a credential revoked? Okay, yes or no on each of those questions, and you have to answer every one.
We
And
have
then
a question in
Yes.
the chat box, Amber.
Perfect.
If I might interrupt right now.
No, please do.
Okay, what if I get a permit for teacher master? Will I be able to work as an associate teacher?
Oh, yes, you can always, and I asked this question of Kathy Neisnick, who ran our MPC's Child Development Center for a very long time. Her recommendation is to apply for the highest level of permit that you qualify for, and you can always do work that would fall under a lower permit. Yeah, good question. Okay. All right, and then, sorry, the last question was about if you've had your license revoked. The child abuse and neglect mandated reporting, you have to mark the box that says I agree. There's a little box that would be there. And remember, number 8, it said in our detailed explanation, it said, do not fill out number 8. So do not put a county code or a district code or anything like that. Okay, and then it tells you before submitting, be sure that you put your social security number and your date of birth, clearly the type of credential, you have to answer the fitness questions, make sure that you've agreed to mandated reporter, and then include your payment. But of course, you don't have to include a payment because you're applying through the stipend program through the Child Development Training Consortium. So here's the oath and affidavit. You're swearing that you have answered this correctly. Here's where the date goes, the city, the county. So remember, this is not country, this is county, state, and the signature of the applicant. So this date, you want it to be very close to when you're submitting the application. All right, any questions on the actual application? Wasn't it easy? Everyone thinks it's going to be a hard one. The application itself is pretty darn easy. It's getting all the other forms and everything compiled and correct. So here are 2 forms, part of the packet. So this is a live scan form that you print and take with you to a live scan location. So some sheriff's departments, police departments offer it. There's a little mailbox place on Webster in downtown Monterey that does it. There's a link to all those locations that offer it, but this form will look the exact same. So you fill out your name and information on here. You take it with you to that location because you have to hand it to them, and this is what they will submit, and they will give you a copy. You have to have a copy of it to submit for reimbursement. So here's the big thing. If they write on this for you as your receipt, because remember you have to pay for it, about $90. If they write on this as your receipt, you need to have them write in blue ink, okay? It would be much better if they would just give you a cash register receipt because you have to prove that you paid, and it can't be a copy. So they need to write either in blue ink or you need to have a separate cash register receipt. All right, so that's why I wrote this little blue ink thing here. And here's how you request reimbursement. This is part of that packet that we're going to send to the Child Development Training Consortium. So simple, fill it out, sign it, date it, and then you have a copy of the live scan form, and you have your receipt or you have your blue ink. Okay. And again, pretty much everybody has to do this. If you're renewing, you do not have to do it. All right, your verification of experience. So this is, again, only if you're applying for a level that requires experience. So I want to slow down on one part to have you be sure that you talk to your supervisor, whoever's filling this out for you. And you can fill out as much as you can for them. So it does have to come back complete. So here's the name, make sure it matches the name on your application, the start date and the end date. What's your position and what are the ages of the children? So this has to be 5 and younger. So if it says 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, they won't count it. What permit level are you seeking your permit for? And here's where I find that if people aren't really reading carefully, they accidentally mark this. It shows here, check below only if the individual has completed less than the required number of days for permit level listed above. Write the total number of days and initial. So it tells you in here, if you're applying, let's say Amber is applying for teacher level and I need 175 days. Let's say I've done 250 days. This should not be checked and they should not have anything here. It's only if you have not met the requirement for the hours. All right, I find that comes back and checked quite often. And then this is where did you get your experience? Okay, so this is what the school should be, the licensed family childcare, whatever it might be. And then this is for your signature. Okay, my signature verifies a named individual has, this is the signature of the supervisor or manager of the center where you've done the time. And they fill this out completely. Okay. And you may have 5 of these depending on where you've worked. Okay, or where you volunteered. This is the confidential profile for direct services. And if you've been doing things with Megan and you have your workforce registry, you may have already completed this. But if you haven't, you can either do it electronically or you can just hand fill it out. Or if you're not sure, just go ahead and fill it out. But do it completely. So it's asking you questions like, what's your highest level of education? Do you have a college degree from a foreign country? So every single thing on here should have an answer to it. And you submit that back. It's a 3-page profile that you can either do online or by print, and it is confidential. And then here is just so you know kind of what to expect. So they don't, unfortunately, you don't get a pretty child development permit mailed to you. You get an email that says it's been approved, and then you have to go in and view it. And then there's a link that you can kind of print your own sort of nicer looking one. So they do have to give you, you have to provide an email, and be sure it's an email that you check, because that's how they contact you. So they will email you 48 hours before they post your permit to their website. And then you can always check. Anyone can go search for an educator online at ctc.edu, and you'll see your name and your permit level. So here's where you can actually check. You select credential information and then educator login, and that will walk you through what permits have been awarded.
Amber,
Yes.
one more question.
Perfect.
Can you still apply even if you have not completed the total number of hours required?
So you'd have to apply for the lower level then. So, you don't, until you have met that requirement, they're just going to deny the application. So that means, if you've paid for it, the money's not going to be helpful. So you'd have to apply for whatever level you currently qualify for until you get that next level. So my suggestion is for everybody, as long as you will have completed 6 units, you can't apply until you're done, right? Because you have to prove that you're done. If you're enrolled in your 6 units right now, they're not done. You have to wait until they're on your transcripts with C or higher grades. Then you're ready to go. But anyone who has at least 6 units should be applying for a permit, in my opinion. It's paid for. They reimburse you for your fingerprints, your live scan, and then in the future you can upgrade, right? And if you upgrade, I think it's within 3 years. I think we'll get an answer to that in just a moment. Then it's only half the cost. So I think it benefits you. Okay, I see a hand raised.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Teacher permit and master teacher permit, is any time limit? Like you said, associate teacher permit only we can renew one time. But for teacher, master teacher, we can renew as many times?
Correct, as long as you're meeting those requirements for the professional growth hours.
Okay. So
Yes.
we need to submit that growth hours every 5 years to renew?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good question. All right, any other? So here are some frequently asked questions, and we'll still have time for more questions. Can I email my application? Basically, the answer is no. Okay, so you do have to go through that process of filling it out online, printing it, getting all of your supporting materials together, and then it goes to the Child Development Training Consortium if that's where you're applying to have them pay for it. Okay. Question number 2 says, my permit's expired. Do I apply for a new permit? Do I upgrade, or do I apply for a renewal? So expired permits carry no penalty, but will remain as part of your record. Therefore, do not request a new permit. You should still choose renewal, upgrade, or other downgrade. So you can also downgrade a permit. So the Child Development Training Consortium does not pay the stipend if you're going to a lower level permit. If it's been expired for more than 18 months, you will need to redo your fingerprints. So you'd have to do that live scan form. Okay. If you're unsure, you can check your fingerprint status with the CTC. And I think it tells me on here. Question in the live scan. If you are unsure, follow the how can I check my fingerprint status? Okay, and that'll be in that packet of materials. Okay, so there's your question again about if your permit's expired, do you have to be re-fingerprinted? If it's been less than 18 months, no. More than 18 months, yes. We talked about the official transcripts. So they have to be the paper transcript unless you're doing the electronic directly to the Child Development Training Consortium. And they can't be photocopies. They have to be the actual transcript, but they can be opened. Okay, so that was number 5. All right, so verification of employment forms may be emailed to employers, returned back with electronic or scanned signatures. Okay, so if you, because of COVID, if you want to email it to a former employer or a current one, they can sign electronically, or they can sign and then scan it back. Before, it was only what they call wet signatures, which means in person, but now they're accepting those, the scanned signatures. Okay, so renewals can be done online as well. Okay, so this says, I cannot get a live scan because the agency is closed. What do I do? As of this moment, when they wrote this, the commission has not changed their policy. They are requiring you to have a live scan. And I do know the places, at least many places are still open. Okay, so there is a place that you can find that we'd be happy to help you with. Yeah, Ishika, I see you have a question.
Sorry.
That's okay.
This is about the experience,
Yes.
the paper from the former employee.
Yep.
Yes, I used to work at in Germany, but under American association. Is that still counted as a?
Well, I have never had that question before. I can't. I can't imagine it wouldn't. I can't imagine. We have lots of military installations that are considered to be. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine it wouldn't.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have questions? Boy, I know we went through a lot. So let me share with you what I would suggest. And Megan or Beth, I think you could let the other group know we're a few minutes away from finishing up. My suggestion is to, if you're finishing this semester, in the next week or two, you're welcome to reach out to me. You're welcome to reach out to Sergio and just say, this is where I'm at. Start thinking about how you want to address the transcripts. So if it's just one college, it makes it a little simpler. I have 6 college transcripts. So whenever I do anything, it's expensive and it takes me some time. So start researching how you're going to get your transcripts. If you might have one, that's great. You can use that as well. And you can start to fill out this application. Megan will share it with you. You can also go to the, Commission on, or the, Child Development Training Consortium and download it yourself. You can start filling it out, have it ready to go. Just don't date it. Remember, we're going to date it close to when you're going to submit it. And then when you request your transcript, you want to say hold for current semester grades to be posted, because you don't want them to give you a transcript right now if you're in classes right now that you need to finish. Okay. You can get your live scan. Let's see, it's April and you'd be applying in maybe May. I'd probably wait till, wait a couple more weeks to do your live scan. They want them pretty close. They want all those dates to be pretty close, but at least, find the location of where you want to go and have that ready so that you can, make that, if they're taking appointments, you can get that appointment set and ready to go. And that's really it. And then if you want me to review it, I'm going to revise my schedule a little bit in MPC. So I'll be working, maybe a week or so after the semester ends, so I can be sure to look at an actual transcript with you. Okay. I do see a question. Yeah, Gisette.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm going to be moving out of state next month.
Okay.
Would I still be able to use the same paperwork, or would it be different?
So every state's different, but what I have found is people are always very impressed with anything from California. So my suggestion is I would get the permit because you've completed the requirements here, and then see what kind of reciprocity they have there with California. Your classes, we have what are called the CAP 8 classes, the California Alignment Project. So anywhere in California, they work. Depending on, whatever community college you took them at. As far as other states, they probably have very similar requirements. So I think it will only help you to, have your California Child Development Permit. They are state issued. So just like a teaching credential is from California, you would have to meet whatever state you're going to, their requirements. But again, I find that California usually requires more anyway. Mm-hmm. So it might just be a matter of having them look at that. And what I would do is look at one of their community college websites, because they tend to provide a more detailed explanation. and see what they offer as far as what the requirement would be to apply for their permit.
Okay.
Okay. And
Thank
let me
you
know,
so
'cause I'm
much.
just curious.
Okay, I
I'm
will.
curious to find out. So educate me, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And was there another question? And don't forget to put your hands down, you guys. Just, I forget to all the time when I ask a question. So
sorry.
click in your hand. That's okay. Is there another question?
Yes, I have a question, one more. Same thing, which I'm confused right now.
Okay.
Master teacher permit, it says 16 general units, but then site supervisor, if we have a AA degree, we don't need that general unit. Am I correct?
Here, we're going to go back there. Will this start me over? Oh, here we go. Here's some contact information for you. And
Oh.
yes, well, let's get to that question. Here are the phone numbers. If you need bilingual assistance, there's a separate phone number, and this is for the Child Development Training Consortium. But you can actually email directly to the Commission on Teacher Credentialing for California, and they actually do answer, which is nice. Also, you have the resources of Michelle, and I don't know why I can't think of the other credentialing specialist name at Monterey County Office of Education. They've been there for a few years now. They were new a while ago, so I was helping, cover some of those questions, but they are very well versed and can answer some of the detailed questions because they do a larger volume and get all sorts of questions. So they sometimes have, additional answers that I don't have, and we can reach out to them for help. So let me go, and here's,
I'll put
and I
their
will.
contact information in the chat. Just give me a
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I will get to the question about the master teacher. We'll go there. I just don't want to forget to give you guys our, Sergio's information is on the left side of your screen, and that's how you go ahead and request an appointment with him. Or you can always call their counseling department at Hartnell to get an appointment with him. Mine is a little more streamlined. You just email me and say, Amber, I'd like to meet. It always helps me if you include your student ID number and the best number to reach you at. And if you also give me a couple of days and times that work for you, that way we don't have to do 3 or 4 emails to figure out an appointment time. And you can tell me if you want to meet on the phone or by Zoom, and I can do either one to help you and work with you. Hartnell's registration for fall begins April 26th. And MPC's registration for fall begins on April 21st. So registering sooner is always better because colleges have to make tough choices about class cancellation. So if a class is not full and they have to cancel it, that's always difficult for everybody. So register early so that the classes can go ahead and run. Okay, is this no, it's not gonna go back. So let me, very quickly go back to the question for the site supervisor, and you guys can help me answer this. So let's look together at the permit matrix. Okay, so our question was about site supervisor, correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's go here. So site supervisor, option 1. Are we doing option 1 or option 2?
Option 1, because I have a AA degree.
Got it. So if you have an AA degree, then it's 24 units. So you know why they don't make you do those 16 general education units? Because they know you did it.
Okay.
In your AA.
Okay.
That's why it's not specified. They know you've already done that. Yeah.
Okay.
Great question.
Okay. So I have one more question for that.
Sure.
What kind of classes for the administration units and adult supervision units I can consider?
So they're very clear in their titles. It's going to say administration of, child development programs, something like that. A, and then administration of child development programs, B. So that's almost all colleges offer those two. MPC probably will offer them again next spring. But if you want to take it earlier, you can always look on the California Virtual College website. Just be sure you're only looking at community college classes. So remember I told you I had a student that unfortunately took a class where they were quarter units. So if you stick with most community colleges, some are quarter units, but most community colleges are semester units, and it will be very clear in the description. So if
Okay.
you're not sure if you want to take one at another community college, always email me or email Sergio and say, hey, will this class work, and copy and paste it and share it with us. So the
Okay.
admin classes will be administration A and administration B. The adult supervision class will literally be entitled adult supervision, and
Okay.
it's 2 units. MPC tends to offer that in early spring,
Mm-hmm.
which is January for us. Unfortunately, we had to cancel it this year because of a lot of things. But we normally offer it in early spring every year.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So I look forward to helping you individually too, if you have these questions. But even if you're not working right now, I still think it's very smart to have this because it looks great on your resume. And then just imagine if you were, let's put you in the position of hiring for a job, and you had 2 applicants and they were both very equal. And one had a child development permit from the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, state of California, and one person didn't. I mean, if there's one thing that would help that one person stand out, to me, I always want you to have that. Okay, I want you to have that benefit. And if we can get it paid for through the Child Development Training Consortium, even better. So I hope we have a record number of applicants this year, and Sergio and I are here to support you. Okay. Megan, are we waiting on the other? Do we really have more than 99 in our total in our workshop? I just saw that pop up.
I'm not sure. I can't remember how many people are in our breakout.
That was kind of exciting.
Thank you, everybody, for attending. This, again, if you do have any other questions, now would be a great time to ask Amber anything that's might be on your mind. But if you don't have any more questions, you're welcome to log off. We'll stay on for a little bit longer to give everyone some time to ask Amber if there's anything else that's pressing.
I'm seeing one more question in
Yay.
the chat. If we apply for assistant teacher, can we get a job as an assistant teacher, and then those hours will apply towards being an associate teacher?
So yes. And you might see in a job posting, they might not even ask you for a permit. They might just say they want 6 units or 12 units. Just know that those 6 units usually are the ones, that you'd use for the very first level. And then the 12 units are the core classes. So they're really asking for the same thing that the child development permit is asking for. So that's why I think it's smart to go ahead and get it. But yes, once you have, everything works in progression, but if you are able to meet a higher level, you can skip it. So I hope that answered that question. Oh, good. We have 2 more questions. Yes, Haley, go ahead.
Are you guys going to send an email with the link to this so that way if I want to look back at it, I can?
For the recording? Yes.
Yes.
And we'll include a link to the, the handouts, etc. Yeah.
Thank
Perfect. You're welcome, Haley.
I have a question.
Yes.
So what if we do any classes right now in community college, any of the community college, that classes count as a professional growth hours too? Or it just for the, what we call, for the transcript? So
that's a good question. So, it can't just be, I don't know, I'm just going to throw a class out there, auto mechanics, which is a great class. And if you're interested, absolutely take it. But I'm not a professional growth advisor, but I'm trying to imagine someone advising you for what would help you grow as a professional in the field of early childhood education.
Yeah. So
maybe if you want to teach,
if we take that classes, so does that classes, whatever, like 6 months, a semester we are doing it, does that classes count as a professional growth hours?
So
yes, it does. As long as it's not affiliated with your permit application or your renewal, as long as it's an additional units, then you can put that towards professional development.
Okay, thanks, Megan.
Okay, thank you.
Another quick question, Amber. So you mentioned that they will get a link to this recording or whatever. Will that be sent through email? How will they get that link?
Well, I will be the one to send it out to everybody who registered. Okay, so I'll send it out to, if you received the invite and you registered on OMS, then you will send this. It won't be until next week, though. I'm not going to have it has to download and I have to get it all ready.
Perfect. Okay. There was another question. I think, is it Joyce? Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I also have a question. So right now I currently have my site supervisor permit. I do still have until 2025 until it does expire. And I am also currently taking classes for a master's program. So the classes that I'm taking now for my master's and my credentials, that will count towards professional growth hours when I'm ready to renew the
I think
permit.
so, Megan. Would you agree?
If you're taking courses that are not relevant to the actual permit application, then it will be considered professional development.
Okay, so like my master's program right now, I'm doing my master's in teaching and I'm getting my credentials in early childhood special ed. So that would count towards the permit then?
I think a good example would be like you need your 6 units, right, for your specialization for your permit. So those 6 units would not count toward your professional growth hours because you need those, you need to mark that box that you've done that for your actual application for your permit. So anything you have to use for your actual permit application do not count for your professional growth, but anything outside of that does.
Got it.
Oh, okay.
Does that?
Does it matter how many how do they count the hours if they're by like classes? So like right now my program is, it's going to take me 2 years to finish it.
Your actual hours are your class hours.
Okay.
So yeah.
How many hours?
And definitely be sure you get a professional growth advisor because they're going to go through this with you and then you can start listing classes, and they've done a training, they've got a handbook that they'll follow. So they'll walk you through that because we want to be sure you understand exactly what's counting and what's not.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. Anybody else? And you've got my email.